I felt the fist connect with my lower back before I even registered the scream. It wasn't a tap. It was a full-blown, rage-fueled punch directly onto my fractured spine. I collapsed to the office floor, gasping for air, vision swimming in white-hot agony. Above me, my delusional boss was purple-faced, screaming that I had cost him millions. He thought he could use me as his punching bag. He thought he could force me to sign a resignation letter while I was writhing on the floor to cover his own tracks. He genuinely believed. His net worth and his title made him untouchable. But he didn't know that while I lay there unable to walk. I was already memorizing every single labor law violation he had just committed. He thought he broke me, but watch how he instantly regret crossing the one person who knew where all the bodies were buried. This isn't just a story about a bad job. It's about watching an entitled tyrant lose his inheritance, his company, and his freedom. If you think a boss who physically assaults an injured employee deserves to rot in a cell, hit that like button right now. Let's see if we can get 10,000 likes for pure justice. And if you love seeing toxic people get hit with instant karma, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You do not want to miss the update at the end of this one. I need to paint a picture of the insanity I walked into. I was hired as a UI/UX designer for a tech startup that was supposed to be the next big thing. You know the type: slick marketing, buzzwords, and a CEO who thought he was the next Steve Jobs but had the business acumen of a toddler. Let's call him Gary. Gary was the definition of entitled. He was playing CEO with his daddy's money, literally. His entire startup capital was an early inheritance. I was brought on to save an app that was already drowning. On my first day, I looked at the code and the design architecture, and I felt a pit form in my stomach. Development was everywhere. Nothing linked up. The user flow was a dead end. I immediately flagged it. I walked into the team lead's office. "Look," I said, pulling up the schematics. "The back end doesn't talk to the front end here, or here. If we launch this, it crashes in 10 seconds. The team lead looked tired. He just pointed to Gary's glass office. "Tell him." So I did. I went into the lion's den. I showed Gary the flaws. I explained professionally that his baby was going to fail. Gary didn't even look up from his phone. He waved his hand at me like I was a fly. "You're new. You don't get the vision. It's not a big deal. Don't change anything. Just make it look pretty." I froze. My internal monologue was screaming. This is a disaster waiting to happen. But I needed the paycheck. I needed the experience. So, I swallowed my pride, said yes, "Sir," and went back to my desk. I kept my head down. I did exactly what I was told. Fast forward 3 months, the launch happens, and exactly as I predicted, the bugs came out to bite us. The app crashed, data was lost, reviews tanked. That morning, Gary stormed onto the floor. He wasn't acting like a CEO, he was acting like a toddler who dropped his ice cream. He was screaming at the entire development team, veins bulging in his neck. "You're all useless," he shrieked, throwing a stapler against the wall. "You ruined my day. You ruined the launch. Why am I paying you idiots?" He fired the team lead on the spot, and then, in a twist of delusional logic that I still don't understand, he pointed a shaking finger at me, the newbie, who had warned him about this exact scenario. "You," he barked. "You're the new team lead. Fix this mess. Now." I should have quit right then. I know that now. But I was young, and the title of team lead felt like a golden ticket. I thought I could actually fix it. I went into overdrive. I stayed late every night. I outlined a comprehensive project plan to rebuild the app from scratch. I stripped away the bad code, redesigned the interface, and created a roadmap that actually made sense. I got Gary to sign off on it, or at least he nodded while scrolling through Instagram during the meeting. We worked for weeks. The team morale was slowly coming back. We fixed the problems. We made the product better. We finally booked a meeting to pitch the revamped project plan to Gary before the big investor meeting, the day of the pitch. The team was nervous but proud. We walked into the conference room. I started the presentation. As you can see, Gary, we've optimized the... Silence. Gary was texting. He didn't look up. Gary? I asked. He stood up, checked his watch, and yawned. I have a lunch. Just do whatever. And he walked out. He walked out on his own company's product pitch. We were stunned, but we had a deadline, so we took that exact presentation to his investors without him. And guess what? The investors loved it. They were ecstatic. They finally saw a return on their investment. 2 days later, Gary called me into his office. I expected a good job. Instead, I walked into an ambush. "What the hell is this?" he screamed, slamming his hand on the desk. "This isn't what I wanted, you fucked up my baby. You are a useless, worthless person." I stood there, blinking. "Gary, the investors loved it. You approved the rebuild." "I never approved this." He roared, "You're inciting a witch hunt against me. You're turning the investors against me. You are a disrespectful, rebellious little brat." He stripped me of the team lead title instantly. He demoted me to project management, but with a caveat. "You are not allowed to make any design decisions," he spat. "You handle the timeline. That's it." Fine. Malicious compliance time. I decided to audit the project to build a proper timeline. I went to every department, art, programming, marketing. I asked for the contracts and the scope of work. And that's when I found the smoking gun. There was no contract. I checked the server. I checked the physical files. Nothing. No deliverables. No deadlines. No scope. I went to Gary. "Gary, I can't build a timeline because there's no contract stating what the project actually is." "We don't have a deadline," he exploded again. "You see, you don't know how to run a business. Stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Just work it out yourself." "Work it out myself?" I asked, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You want me to invent a deadline for a product that doesn't exist. Just do your job." So began the months of hell. Gary treated the design team like his personal servants. He demanded changes at 5 p.m. on a Friday, expecting a full redesign by Monday morning. He would storm in, look at the code, and say, "Change it all." Based on a whim, the golden child of the company this specific app was being suffocated by his ego. He constantly belittled me in front of the whole office. "Oh, look, the failed designer has an opinion." He'd sneer during stand-ups. Despite this, the team kept coming to me. They trusted me. I would give them advice, off the record, always careful to say, "I can't approve this, but this is what works." Gary caught wind of it. He screamed at me for insubordination. Then, when the investors praised the bug fixes I secretly authorized, he screamed at me for wasting time on bugs instead of building new, impossible features. I was working 18-hour days. I was sleeping under my desk. And then, my body finally gave out. I had a pre-existing back injury from a car accident years ago. It was manageable, but the stress, the cheap office chair, and the 100-hour work weeks aggravated it beyond belief. I started feeling sharp, electric shocks running down my legs. I went to the doctor. He looked at the MRI and turned pale. "Your spine is fractured," he said. "If you don't rest, you could be permanently paralyzed. You need a medical sabbatical, now." I was terrified. I was in agony. I brought the doctor's note to Gary. I was legally entitled to medical leave. No, Gary said, tossing the note in the trash. Grow up. Everyone has back pain. You're just lazy. But, Gary, my spine is fractured. I pleaded. I can't walk. But if you don't come in, you're fired. Yeah, he said. I'll make sure you never work in this town again. I was scared on it. I needed the money for the medical bills he was causing. So, I limped back to my desk. I worked through the pain, tears streaming down my face. Then came the security project. Another one of Gary's delusional ideas. He wanted us to build a military-grade security app with a team of junior mobile developers. It was impossible. When I tried to explain the technical limitations, he dragged me into his office for another shouting fest. The stress was the final straw. My back locked up. I physically couldn't walk. I was hospitalized. The doctors were horrified. I sent an email from my hospital bed requesting the sabbatical again. Denied. I was out of options. But while I was in the hospital, everything fell apart at the office. The original app, the one he messed with, finally launched, and it bombed. Hard. The investors pulled the plug. Millions of dollars gone. Gary called an emergency meeting. He forced me to come in. Even though I was on crutches, he lined us up like a firing squad. He was foaming at the mouth. "This is your fault," he screamed at me. "You cost this company millions, you incompetent piece of trash." He walked up to me. I was leaning against the wall for support. He was shaking with rage. "It's entirely your fault," he yelled. And then he did it. He swung his fist and hit me hard in the lower back, right where the fracture was. The pain was blinding. It felt like a grenade went off in my spine. I crumpled to the floor, screaming. The room went silent. Even the other terrified employees gasped. Gary didn't stop. He looked down at me, writhing on the carpet, and sneered. "Get up. Stop acting." I couldn't move. "Fine," he said. "You're done. Write your resignation letter. Now. Hand it in before you leave this building, or I'll sue you for negligence." He couldn't fire me legally because of the medical condition, so he was forcing me to resign under duress. He handed me a pen and paper while I was on the floor. Through the tears and the haze of pain, I wrote it. I just wanted to escape. I wanted the screaming to stop. I signed it, and he snatched it from my hand. "Get out," he said. I crawled to the elevator. No one helped me. They were too scared of him. I dragged myself out of that building, broken, and humiliated. But as I lay in the back of the taxi, sobbing, a cold realization washed over me. He had put his hands on me. He had assaulted me, and I had witnesses. I wasn't just going to sue him. I was going to ruin him. The aftermath was immediate. With me gone, there was no one left to manage the timelines or lie to the investors. The other employees, seeing what happened to me, quit in droves. They cited unsafe working conditions. Gary tried to call me a week later. He tried to hire me back as a part-time consultant for less than minimum wage because he couldn't figure out the project management software. I told him to go to hell. My boyfriend took the phone and threatened to file harassment charges. Gary stopped calling, but he started spreading rumors. He told everyone in the industry I was a thief, that I was incompetent, that I stole money. He blacklisted me. I couldn't get a job. I fell into a deep depression. I attempted to end my life twice because I felt so worthless. I heard his voice in my head every day. But here's the update. I didn't stay down. I found a lawyer, a shark. When I told him about the physical assault and the forced resignation while I was injured, his eyes lit up. We didn't just go to civil court. We threatened criminal charges for assault and battery. We filed a lawsuit for wrongful termination, workplace harassment, defamation, and physical assault. Gary tried to fight it. He tried to use his family court tactics of intimidation, but without his team to cover for him, his evidence fell apart. The investors, realizing he was a liability, testified against him to save their own skins. The discovery phase was brutal for him. We exposed the lack of contracts. We exposed the abusive emails. We exposed the medical records proving he denied my leave. Gary was forced to settle to avoid jail time. The settlement was massive. It wiped out his remaining net worth, but the karma didn't stop there. Because of the lawsuit, the investors conducted a full audit. They found out he had been using company funds for personal vacations. They forced him to step down as CEO. He was banned from the building. The company declared bankruptcy 3 months later. His legacy is dust. Where am I now? I used the settlement money to get the surgery I needed for my spine. I spent a year in therapy to deprogram the voice of that entitled monster from my head. Today, I run my own design consultancy. I work with clients who respect contracts and deadlines. I treat my team with dignity. And the best part, I recently hired my old team lead, the one Gary fired on day one. We are crushing it. Gary. I heard his wife left him, taking what little was left of his inheritance in actual family court. He is currently working a mid-level sales job, reporting to a manager 10 years younger than him. So, here's my question to you. If your boss physically hit you, would you settle for the money or would you push for jail time? I struggled with that decision for a long time. Let me know what you would have done in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more entitled bosses get absolutely destroyed by the legal system, make sure you're subscribed. See you in the next story.